Yeah.
I was wondering, what was the most stunning revelation you have ever had from an animal which really stopped you in your tracks?
Yes, well, there's been loads of them, John. But what's interesting is I tend to I forget a lot of the information that comes through. I think it's because it's not my memory, it's there, it's coming through me. But out of well, there's loads. There's two that have coming I'm going to have to tell you both of them. I can't choose between them. I'll try and be brief. The first one was, I hadn't been doing it for very long, maybe a couple of years professionally. And somebody sent me a photograph of a horse. So this was over the phone. And they sent me a picture of this mare. She was quite elderly. And I have since discovered that old horses are brilliant to talk to because they live for a long time. And they seem to have such a variety of life experience that you can get quite good evidence from horses. Anyway, the first thing I heard when I tuned into the mare, and the woman was on the end of the phone and I couldn't see her. She said, the mare said to me that her person had lost her daughter and she was totally bereaved, and that she cried into her mane. The woman cried into the horse's mane. And being a not very courageous new person, of course, it's sort of ego annihilating being an animal communicator, because you've got to say the first thing that comes into your mind, but you could be so horribly wrong. And you have to get your self-importance out of the way, basically, otherwise it just doesn't work. And anyway, so I was really nervous about saying this because it was such a major thing, but I hadn't got any choice. I had to say it. And so I did. And I said, she's saying you've lost your daughter, and that, you're really bereaved, and that you cry into her mane. And then the woman broke down on the end of the phone, and that was true. And I still don't know to this day whether it was a little baby or whether it was an adult daughter. I have no idea. But it was, but the rest of the message from this mare was so heartwarming. It was just lovely. And then the other example that's popped into my mind as you've asked that question, John, is my horse Taliesin, who is now in spirit, and I'll probably weep a small amount because every time I mention him or quite a few of my animals, I always feel a bit weepy. But I had a livery yard at one point, and we had at that point we had about 6 horses there, I think. It's only a little one. And there was one day when I arrived, and Taliesin, he was a big ex-race horse, beautiful, looked like Black Beauty, and he galloped down the hill. It was quite a steep slope, and skidded to the gate. And it was very odd behavior because he wouldn't normally sort of behave like that. And I could see that he was really insistently wanting to say something to me. And he was talking about a young girl, well, she's about 16, and she was on my yard at the time. And she was doing some work with him, as in she was playing with him and taking him for walks and stuff. And he obviously thought it was really important to him, because he felt that he was teaching this girl stuff that she needed to know about horses, because he was perhaps, in his early teens. So middle age for a horse, and he was really fond of her, and he obviously considered himself her teacher. But when he shot down to the field gate to grab my attention, he said, "She's thinking about polo ponies." And I thought, oh, that's a bit specific. Did I really hear that? Which is the ultimate thing that all animal communicators, we go, did I just make that up? That's so specific. Anyway, but I thought, and this is another thing I've learned, if you don't pass on the message, you are not in their corner. Like, they expect it of you. And there's lots of challenges on the path in that way. And I've had quite a few of those, where you have to sort of put your foot down with a vet or something, and they're really scientific and far more knowledgeable than you, but the horse has said this, and if you don't do what the horse, if you don't pass it on and you're prepared to look like an idiot or whatever, you are in a lot of trouble with that horse. So so I had to corner this girl, well, not corner her, but I had to kind of approach it quite tactfully and say, Taliesin says it's they probably think I'm a nutter, but because most people did when they first arrived on my yard, they thought I was a nutter, and over time they gradually all ended up being able to talk to horses too. But I had to say to this girl, look, I know this sounds nuts, but Taliesin's really bothered that you're thinking about getting a polo pony, or you're thinking about polo ponies a lot, and his nose is quite put out of joint by it. He's really upset about it. And she said, no, I'm not. And I went, oh, right, okay. Thinking, well, he definitely said that to me. And then her face dropped and she said, I've just applied for a job on a polo yard. Wow. So he was worried that she was going to go off and not care about him anymore. That was his concern. And he was a bit heartbroken. And the reason why that was so incredible, I mean, there's loads of times that sort of thing happen, but it's when they physically do something, so like his body language was out of character. They line their hearts up to you with horses so that you can hear them. They don't, they kind of align their heart with yours. They stand or block you or something, and they then try and get their message across. And he was so good at it. But it was so specific as well, and it matched his body language, and that was why it was a real bit of it was quite informative as I was developing my animal communication for me. Well, but there's been loads of times like that. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to add, because I do Reiki as well, and the person who taught me Reiki was my second cousin, who is also a medium. Interesting. Right. And the one thing I learned very early on in doing it was not to try too hard.
Yeah.
In the sense that if you're letting the energy come through you, you're acting as a conduit in a sense. The worst thing you can do is to consciously think, I'm going to make a really good job of this. I'm going to do this.
Yeah. It's exactly that, John. Yeah.
Yeah. You've literally just got to relax and just let it happen.
Yeah, I think that's true. If anything, to me, that's like using the right hemisphere of your brain. But it's anything, anything like art or dance or anything that's sort of worth doing like that. It's like you've got to sort of step out, probably poetry, you've got to sort of step out of the way. You might have to learn your craft, but when you're at your best is when you're not really, your left hemisphere, your conscious mind is not interfering, and it's quite hard, which is why I think I didn't do so well on Carrie. I am, you get more practiced at stopping that, but you do still worry when everyone's looking at you in church. You go, oh my God, that's horrible. I don't know anything about your families or your friends. And then of course you've got to get yourself out the way, and then you're all right. Yeah. Any other questions? We've really shot over tonight. Any other questions before we go?
Just like to thank you as ever, Susie.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Yeah, and I'm so pleased and so grateful for you all coming on to these clinics, because it's a new thing. It's it is an art, not a science. Sometimes it works really well, other times it doesn't. And but it's really great, it's really lovely that you're all supporting it, and please do pass, spread the word, and and it's hope to see you again.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's lovely to see your animals' faces as well. Yeah. Okay, all right, shall we say good night? Yeah,
bye, good night.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.